And I'm getting a lot of feedback this morning, all of it positive on Doug's Tap, Tap, Tap. Some people are saying that it's his best perf song ever. I think it's a close run. We've got some other good ones. I thought Barista was pretty good, but this one certainly has resonated. We were going to try and do a video. Did that work out?
No, Doug basically got done writing his column and said he was completely wiped out, and he'd just been a long day and he didn't have it.
He's tapped out, you might say.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, I suppose we can still give it a go if we want to. It would be nice to get something posted on YouTube, because I suspect it would get a lot of hits.
Now, Joe did stay last night and put kind of a photo montage over it, so we could at least put it up on YouTube. But it's not going to have the same effectiveness, I think, that the 7th floor restroom would give the ambiance.
Yeah, so we may come back on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to admit, I have somewhat mixed feelings about this one.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's clever. It's also making a lot of fun of, an individual. I don't know. Is that what we're supposed to be doing?
That's what Doug's supposed to be doing. Yeah, that's
Well,
Doug's
you
stock
could
in
argue
trade.
that we don't have to help him anymore by making a video or, exploring it any further.
You could make that argument. Are you making that argument?
Yeah.
Well, make the argument.
I just did.
Well, I
agree with Gary.
I mean, I think it's one. I don't have any issue at all with what Doug or any columnist writes. But I mean, now that we're branching into singing columnists, that's a different. It's a different. I mean, it's a form of entertainment that is also based on very much on derision and attack. And you talk about the level of discourse that goes on in the blogs. This isn't much different in a lot of ways. So.
Well, I understand and respect the point of view. I think the argument you make actually supports the other direction. That is, we branch out into different forms of media. What we're looking for are ways to translate what we do in writing to the kinds of multimedia forms that work online. His stock in trade is derision of public figures,
right?
Which is completely different than writing a song about some poor schmo on the street.
Yeah, but I think what makes this a little different on this YouTube issue is now you're taking it to the next step to a platform that is not our platform. You are intentionally saying we're gonna continue to ridicule Larry Craig, not in our pages, but someplace else, with the intention of bringing attention to ourselves for the ridicule. To me, that's one step further than I feel real comfortable with. I mean, if we wanted to, it's different than creating some sort of video and putting it on our website. It's really going out in the national forum, which, I mean, do we have to be one more voice? I mean, it's like there's this cacophony of ridicule out there right now in the story. Do we add anything?
Is Doug Clark's job ever to add anything?
Yes, I think so. That's too easy to say that it isn't. I mean, I think, the bottom line is he's got a lot of latitude, but we still have standards here.
Well, I think the argument, if we send a video out, that's not just Doug Clark, that's a good chunk of Spokesman-Review staff, and it will be branded as Spokesman-Review content.
It is Spokesman-Review
content.
Well,
I would not argue that it's not. It absolutely is.
Right. It's us.
We send our content out, including Doug's column, goes out to the world every day.
But people can still perceive, even if with the column and the song, that being solely the product of Doug Clark's mind.
No, that's ridiculous. There's copy editors, there's page designers, there's press people.
When's the last time? When's the last time a copy editor changed Doug's column? I mean, people read that and they see Doug Clark's voice. They don't see that as the institutional voice of the Spokesman-Review.
Yeah, I think you're.
And you're saying that
there's way too many.
YouTube they would.
The people who maintain the computer network so it works. I mean, I don't think any of these people would be. They would be technical jobs. They would be technically putting.
Right. But when people see a video, they're not going to see that video and say, "Oh, Doug Clark made that video all by himself." When they see the song, he made that. I mean, he had assistance from outside.
Yeah.
But
I remember.
I think you either like it or you don't. I think we're straining to find arguments for why not to put it there. I mean, you just either decide we're going to do that. Or
I'm not, I'm not arguing against what he does by any stretch of the imagination. I like the song. I think it's cute, but I'm trying to help define this distinction that Carla's making. I think we do cross a boundary, and do we want to cross it?
But,
Just the other
Colin
day-
already puts videos on YouTube.
All of our videos
What's-
are on
Yeah,
YouTube.
but
YouTube is like a hammer.
Yeah,
it's
but-
a tool
but-
that's been made
but there are-
available to do
but
just
there are
this.
all kinds of, I mean, Colin's, you can't compare what he's putting up there
No,
with
but
this.
everything we do goes on YouTube now. Every video we do goes on YouTube.
I know, but what I am saying is, I mean, doing that is an intentional decision to continue this ridicule on a very complicated issue, and do we benefit anyone from just taking that to the next level?
A couple of weeks ago, Gary, you sent me a link to Brownback Girl, which was a well-produced
Right.
video from the Wichita
Yeah.
Eagle, which was ridiculing a conservative Republican running for president, produced by the Wichita Eagle and put out on YouTube and a variety of other places. It wasn't tied to a specific sex scandal, but it was certainly satirizing and ridiculing their home state senator.
Right.
And you thought it was hysterical.
Yeah,
Well,
it
I don't
was.
think, I
And
don't
you
think
shared the
anybody's
link.
saying that it's not funny.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no.
I just think
I
that,
said,
you know,
yeah,
I mean, the
you know,
bottom
I
line
thought it was
is,
very clever.
in this
Yeah.
resource-challenged world in which we are living, is that where you want to put your staff resources?
What I'm trying to say with that reference is that there's no difference between the video that you thought was clever, and I believe even said, can we do things like this? Can't we do things like this? And what we did do with Doug Clark, there's no difference. That took staff resources. In fact, it was highly produced. Used local acting talent
Right.
and a location shoot, and it was designed to extend the reach of Wichita Eagle content into the video world. I don't see a difference.
But just because you can doesn't mean you should. Every decision is situational. Every decision requires judgment. And I just think, we've weighed in here, and we probably got some better things to do now than to spend time in a lavatory creating something that is just meant to create grins and giggles at somebody's expense. It's a tragedy.
Would it have been
We've done our
different
part.
if we'd gone and done the video of him as he produced the song?
Maybe, but I'm just saying, how much more energy do you want to devote to this?
Well, I mean, I
my
understand
God,
that
we've
now,
got
but it's
other
already
stuff.
been
Well,
done. We
yeah.
have something right,
But
and we
you
could have
still-
done it minimally, even
Carl-
sticking one image and
Yeah,
an
but you
audio
still-
out there.
To do that now still requires additional work.
There are two
Honestly,
There are
is
two
that worth
arguments
it?
here. There's two arguments here, and I don't
And
have
I'm
any.
making both of them.
I don't have any problem arguing the resource issue. We have to make resource decisions all the
Yeah.
time, and if this is a waste of our resources, absolutely. But that's not where the discussion begins.
No, but
Yeah,
I'm
and I think
arguing
that's,
both
and
of them.
but I think
I
the
just
other
don't
one's
think
the
it's
more important,
inappropriate.
is the more important
Okay,
argument,
then
because
well,
it gets at what we do.
Well, the thing that bothers me about the whole thing, frankly, is that after reading what I've read about what's gone on here, I gotta believe that someplace deep down there's a serious mental issue somehow, somewhere. I mean,
There was with West.
Yeah, how
And
is
so
this
are you
different
making
from
fun
the
of,
songs about West,
Yeah.
Well, it isn't.
Well, but
I'm wondering why all the hand-wringing over this, but not over all the West.
Oh, I think there was lots of hand-wringing.
There was lots of hand-wringing.
I know
We
there was
didn't-
lots of
we didn't put
hand-wringing, but I
anything
don't
up on
remember
YouTube.
this
Well,
level of
On West.
conversation
Well,
over the whole West.
we didn't have things like YouTube or video.
They're not apples to
The
apples.
difference over in 2 years. Well, I think they are apples to apples, because if it happened today, we'd be having this conversation about his West
Yeah.
song.
Yeah, and I would argue
Absolutely.
the same thing.
Well, not that, page views are any kind of factor in our news decisions, but we have had about 4,000 extra page views of our homepage the last 3 days, and I think you can probably, directly link it to this story, so whether we like it or not. I'm not saying anything about the argument you're raising, Carla, but definitely if we're competing in an internet world and multimedia is one of our tools, whether that's the right decision on this particular project or not, obviously, as you know, multimedia is one way we compete to drive traffic to our site, especially
Absolutely.
with subscriptions, so.
Yeah.
It's another way to tell a story,
Yeah.
which we have already told.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think we've drawn our lines in the sand. Personally, I believe we use every tool at our disposal, and I have no problem at all sharing our content with the world. If it's good enough to be in our paper, if If it's good enough to be on our website, if we make the decision that we're going to publish it, then I see absolutely no reason not to use every tool at our disposal to distribute it. We have the same standard for our content in print. We are thrilled when our print content gets picked up and used in different ways. The real issue is, do we do this in the first place? And I think we crossed that Rubicon about 3 years ago. So I'm fully supportive. I think it's a decision of the online staff to decide if this is a step they want to take in terms of the resource issue, and the editors who are responsible for that department. That's the same freedom that any editor has with any of their departments, how we use our resources. If they decide that this is a waste of their time, so be it. Resource issues are made on one level. This philosophical issue, we share our content. If it's good enough to be in the paper, we can't be embarrassed about sharing it in other ways. So really the question then becomes, do we do it in the first place? And people who were nervous about Doug's song, had the opportunity to kill it before it ever got this far, or at least to argue against it.
Yeah, I was going to say argue it, but there's no killing.
Not
to
with
be
me.
done. Right.
Not with
so
me.
That's disingenuous to say that.
It is.
But you could argue against it.
Well,
that's a resource issue. Who's got the time?
One other footnote on this conversation. I don't want to be perceived as being anti the Doug Clark song, because I'm absolutely not. But I think one of the lessons from the West coverage is it looked really bad when we appeared to be celebrating in Jim West's demise, even though we weren't. But there were people who perceived us as being, and creating a song and creating a video are two different things. I mean, it's additional. It's where we've made the song and now we're going another step and making a video. That could be seen as piling on and dancing on Larry Craig's political grave.